Hi, welcome to Networks Learning, the Palo Alto Firewall training series. In my previous videos, I have shown you how you can build your virtual lab for the simulation of networking and security solutions. So in this lab, we are going to build a small network and we'll configure the Palo Alto Firewall with respect to that network, and we'll pass the traffic from the firewall. So currently I am having one firewall and I need to add some router and switches in order to have routing and switching to be configured for this Palo Alto firewall. So I'll use one MikroTik router for routing from my physical infrastructure to this Palo Alto firewall. So that would be the WAN interface for the Palo Alto firewall. You can use any of the node in order to configure WAN routing for the Palo Alto firewall, but I prefer this MikroTik router because it provides you with the flexibility of configuring and manipulating the routing as well. So I'll put the name as edge router and I'll configure it with 8 interfaces. So this is the first lab. So in future we will connecting some other infrastructure with this edge router. So that's why I am using this router for flexibility. So this would be my edge router. It will be connected to one of the ports of the Palo Alto firewall. Okay, and over here I will connect it to my physical network. I need one more switch for my LAN infrastructure and a DMZ switch as well. So I am going to add Cisco IOL-L2. It would be, the number of nodes would be 2. Basically this is a switch, so we need to change the icon according to the switch. I will put this LAN switch. DMZ switch. Connecting to one of the ports. So you can see over here firewall is connected to one of the edge routers, and on LAN side it is connected to DMZ server and LAN switch, DMZ switch or LAN switch and LAN switch. So currently we are configuring the firewall in routed mode. Routed mode means you both of the interfaces, outside interface, LAN interface, DMZ will have one of the IP addresses on the interfaces. So this is the routed mode, and inline routed mode layer 3. You have also the flexibility on Palo Alto firewall to configure it in tap mode. Tap mode means you are just trying to monitor the traffic passing from the firewall. So you configure one of the span port from the switch and ask the switch to send all the traffic passing from switch ports to one of the Palo Alto firewall interface. On Palo Alto firewall, you put the port into the tap mode. So firewall will fetch all the events and all the logins from the switch port, and it will provide you with the flexibility of monitoring and providing you with the what you can say visibility that what is happening on your network. So tap mode is also useful for monitoring and POC purposes when you want to monitor and you want to see what is happening on your network. And another mode is the virtual wire. In virtual wire the same thing happens. Currently we are using layer 3 interfaces, but in virtual wire you don't configure the IP addresses on the interfaces connected on the firewall. So two interfaces would be part of one virtual wire pair, and it will just monitor the traffic in layer 2 mode. Also it has the capability, full capability as you have in layer 3 mode for the monitoring and for the what you can say, configuration of profile security features on traffic in virtual wire mode. So I am going to initialize all these devices. Once these are initialized, I will be back. For that time, I am pausing the video. So finally the nodes are initialized, and I'm going to show you the console of each node over here. So first I have edge router. I'm using MicroTik router for the edge services. So it's getting 192.168.99.7 on one of its outside port, which is connected to physical network. Using this IP, I can access. So this is the edge router, and the other interface is connected to the firewall. The IP address on the firewall is 192.168.99.9 is the firewall IP address. Using this IP address, I can log into the firewall. And the other, I am using DMZ switch and LAN switch, and behind these switches we have some machines as well to initiate some traffic. This is the DMZ switch, and same, and this is the LAN switch. So now we are going to configure Palo Alto firewall interfaces, and then we will move towards the policies as well. So this is the console of the firewall. I am using 11.1. These are the details, and the first we have to go to the device setup and management. Inside management you have different settings. Where you can set host name, login banner, time setting, NTP settings, and other settings as well. So this is the operations tab, where you configure settings with respect to your running configuration. You can import the configuration of the firewall. Over here we have to navigate to interfaces, management. Currently the management interface is getting IP address from the DHCP server, so it will also get some routing information as well. And it will, by default, Palo Alto firewall uses its management interface to route all the traffic, which is the service route configuration. Under service route configuration, you can see all the different segments of the routing is performed via the management interface. So if you want to change this setting, like you want NTP traffic to not to use the default management interface, you can navigate it over here, and you can change the interface that you want to use for the traffic of this type. So here first we will navigate to the network settings. Because our firewall is in routed mode, so we need to configure all the interfaces of the firewall. But over here I'll show you one of the things. If you go into the interface mode, you have different interface tabs like tap mode, HA mode, HA type of interface, then virtual wire, layer 2, layer 3 aggregate interface. Tap mode is used to monitor the traffic on firewall from one of the switch port, and it's not the inline mode. HA is the port that you designate for HA purpose. Virtual wire is where you want to deploy your firewall in layer 2 mode inline to the network, and layer 2 is also some, if you want to have some VLAN interfaces, you can use that layer 2 segments, and layer 3, and you can also create sub interfaces from here as well, from the interface menu. So this is how you can configure, or you can use your firewall inside your network based on your network requirements. So here we need to configure interfaces. Before configuring interfaces, we need to configure the zones. So this would be the outside zone and DMZ zone and inside zone. So navigate to network zones. You need to add the zone. This would be our WAN. If you want to enable zone protection, so you need to create the policy for the zone protection profile. So zone protection is having some features which you can enable to protect your firewall from DDoS attacks or IP based attacks like ICMP, TCP flood, sync flood attacks. You can use this zone protection profile for the zone based. So this is our WAN zone. Creating a LAN zone. Then we need to have a DMZ zone as well. So you have created the zones. Now you need to go to the objects, because we need to assign the IP addresses to the interfaces inside, outside, and DMZ. So it's better you create the objects so you can use those objects, and if there is any change in future, you just need to change the address inside the object rather than changing the IP address on all the fields where you have the IP address called. So it would be when IF address, when subnet is 10.10.50.0.2 is on firewall segment /29. LAN interface address is 192.168.1.1. You can see over here 1.1 /24. For DMZ I am using 192.172.1600.0. /24. So once you configure all these objects, then you need to navigate to the network interfaces, and now you need to check ether 1/1 is connected to edge router 1/1. There is 1/1 comment connected to edge router. The type would be L3. Then you need to assign virtual router. We are using only one router, so virtual router is the segment similar to VRF in Cisco or other networking environments we have. In Palo Alto, you have a flexibility to have separate virtual routers for your different segments. So security zone is not appearing over here because we have not applied the changes, or we have not initiated the commit command, so that after commit it will appear here. So first we need to commit the changes. So it will take some time, so for that time I'll pause the video. So here you can see that commit changes are successfully applied. So now we navigate to interface configuration. Select the interface, select the interface type to layer 3, and select virtual router. We are using the default router, but zones are not appearing here. Why? I need to check why it's not showing any zone over here, because we have created the zones. I think I have not set up the type of the zone, maybe. Let me check. Side zone. You can see over here what mistake I made is the type is tap mode. So I need to make all these zones to layer 3. Okay. So now it should reflect in the interface settings, I think. Yeah, you can see over here now I am able to see the security zones. Security zone for this interface is WAN. IPv4 address is WAN IF address, and then you need to have some management profile for the interface in order to see the ping response. By default it's not allowed, so we'll create a global management profile and will allow the ping response for the interfaces. So how it's more. Now we need to configure LAN interface 1/2. Mode is layer 3. Default router. LAN IPv4 would be LAN IF address. In the same way we need to apply management profile for the interface. Similarly for DMZ we have 1/3. Mode is layer 3. Virtual router is default. Security zone would be DMZ. IPv4 address would be DMZ IF address, and we need to assign the management profile. Okay. So this is how you configure interfaces for different type of interface types and the mode on which you have deployed or you want to deploy the firewall in the network. So I'll also made one video with respect to the tap mode. So if we have a network running on and we want to see using the Palo Alto firewall the visibility on the network, so we can use the tap mode as well. But currently I need to commit the changes, and after that I will configure the edge router so that we can check whether we are able to ping from the edge router to the Palo Alto firewalls for this segment. So this is my edge router. I'm going into IP addresses, add new address 10.10.50.1/29. So we are using 10.10.50.0/29 subnet for this segment between edge router and Palo Alto firewall. So .2 is on firewall segment, .1 would be on router segment. Port is 2. Okay, apply this change. Okay, then you need to move to the tools. You can test from here as well, or you can test from firewall segment as well. Let's see the changes are being applied on firewall segment. So once changes are done, you will see the ping response over here. Commit changes are successfully applied. You can see the interface link state is changed to up, and we are able to get ping response from the edge router as well. And if you want to ping from firewall, this is the firewall interface, and it's saying that it's not reachable to okay, because we are using the default route is sending the traffic towards management IP address. So we need to change the management IP address route from management to the interface that we have configured. So we need to change the default route towards this edge router on the Palo Alto firewall. So we'll navigate to virtual routers, the default router, and you need to change the static route. Currently it's not having any route because your management interface is fetching IP using DHCP. So DHCP will also provide you with the default routes. So every type of traffic is sending to the management interface of the Palo Alto firewall. So we need to change this to this traffic towards this edge router. Destination would be 000/0 and interface would be 1/1. Next stop would be 10.50.50.1. 10.10.50.1, sorry. So now you will be able to see the response, but for that we need to commit the changes first. Firewall is sending traffic towards management interface gateway, but we can recognize it that from edge router we are able to get the response, so it will work. Also you can see over here that currently we don't have any policy configured, because by default within zone traffic, intra-zone traffic is by default enabled. You can see over here, intra-zone traffic means traffic within the zone. It means LAN to LAN, WAN to WAN, and DMZ to DMZ. By default it is enabled and allowed. And the inter-zone traffic between zones, from one zone to another, it's by default denied. So that's why we were able to receive ping response from our edge router towards the firewall. You can see over here. So once the commit changes are done and we have configured the default route towards this edge router segment, so then we will be able to ping from firewall as well. This is how it works. So in next video we'll go into more details about the configuration of the policies and routing between different zones as well.